Jason Tur here with the coach, Jack Armstrong. Jack, we saw you at the Players Gala last night. We saw Purple's making a comeback. What do you think about the retro pinstripes making a comeback with the Raptors?
Well, considering I spent 10 years as the head coach at Niagara University,
Right.
well, 9 years as head coach at Niagara University, 10 years there altogether, and we were the Purple Eagles.
Okay.
I have a lot of purple ties. I have a lot of things with purple in it, so never a problem. And having worked here for 16 years,
Right.
the vast majority of the time we wore purple. So I'm very comfortable with the color. It's the color of royalty. And anything that connects you with your roots, and so it'll be fun. At the end of the day, as we all know, it all comes down to having a winning team and having a successful team, and the other stuff is all secondary. But needless to say, I like the colors, and I like the fact that they're going to wear the quote-unquote retro uniforms a little bit next year. So sure, why not? And a great way to celebrate your 20th anniversary.
Agreed. All right, so what's old is new again, but let's get to some new questions for the latest edition of Ask Jack. Jack, we've got our first question coming to us from Life is Peachy 345.
I hope you're right.
Yeah, exactly. But he's commenting on the Raptors' record. He notices they're 33-46 heading into our game tonight against Sacramento.
26.
33-26.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for the catch there. Heading into our game against Sacramento tonight, based on the rest of the schedule, 20-plus something games left, what do you think the chances the Raptors can surpass that franchise mark of 47 wins?
Ooh, so you're going to have to go 14-9. Well, you're going to have to go 15-8 to finish the season. Based upon looking at the schedule, considering all the games that are going to be played coming up, I think that would be a difficult feat to do. I mean, nothing would shock me, but I would say it'll be quite difficult. I think the realistic thing for this team right now is to try to, whatever number of games it takes to win, to hold on to the third seed, and more importantly, just whatever you do, hold on to the Atlantic Division title, at the very least at the 4, to make sure you have home court advantage, because the margin of error between Chicago, Washington, Brooklyn, and Toronto, I think, is relatively slim. So the thing that could throw it one way or the other would be having an extra home game. So particularly the positioning of the home games of when you play them. So I think that's going to be key. So whatever number that is in terms of winning, that's what you need to do.
All right, Jack, our next question is coming to us from Raptors Wrap-Up, who's asking specifically about Jonas Valanciunia and wants to know what Jonas needs to do in order to get more consistent minutes on the floor and perhaps earn Dwayne Casey's trust a little more.
I think he's getting good minutes. I just think it's a matter of, his role and all that. I think, you got 23 games left in a season. A lot of these games of late have been against really quick teams, mobile, where you've needed the mobile defensive ability of Amir Johnson, Patrick Patterson, and Tyler Hansbrough. Those guys do a better job defending screen and roll than he does. I mean, that's, so, and the optics are always the same for every coach. At some point in time, you're either a guy that hangs your hat more on your defense or on your offense. I think Dwayne Casey, from the day he was hired here, to his credit, has stayed true to what his beliefs are. He was hired here to fix the defense, and he coaches more from a defensive background. And when push comes to shove, he's going to keep the better defender on the floor. And I think in a lot of situations, you look at playing Golden State and Washington and people like that, you need the more mobile defender to help you defend the pick and roll, chase people off the three-point line, control a really quick, mobile point guard. So I think there'll be other games that Jonas, because of the matchup, will play a lot of minutes. So I think it's a game-by-game thing more than anything else. I don't think it's a knock on him. I don't think it's a lack of confidence. I think it's just you're in the home stretch and you're trying to win as many games as you can. So you put the best guys you can out there.
Okay, Jack, we've got one more question coming to us from David McDine. And David is taking note that the Raptors are in the 3rd spot in the East as of today. And, you mentioned that Eastern Conference playoff picture. You've got Brooklyn, Washington, Chicago, Atlanta, Charlotte, all in the mix there. What's the matchup you think the Raptors would most want out of that group, and possibly the one that they least want out of those potential matchups?
Well, the one I would want the most, obviously, would be Atlanta, but that's not going to happen. And I would probably say Washington, even though I think the fact that they added Andre Miller and Al Harrington's healthy, I think that's going to be a much tougher matchup now. But I still think the fact that they don't have playoff experience would probably help a little bit. I don't want to play Chicago. I just think they're really good and they're well coached. They've got playoff experience. They're really starting to score the ball a lot more. And I would say then the Nets, even though they've been up and down all year, I mean, they have veteran guys. They have good depth. They made a good move at the trade deadline. And I really think that they would be, those two teams right now would be the teams that probably I would want to avoid the most, considering that. So, but I mean, and Charlotte, you know, as crazy as this sounds, the Raptors have just struggled against them. And at the same time, most of their guys haven't been in the playoffs before, so it'd be interesting to see the kind of matchup that would be. But I think at the end of the day, I think Washington probably looks like that team that you'd want to play. And I think right now where the Raptors are at, it would be the Nets that they'd be going head-to-head with. So, but I would say Washington. But I do think there could be a lot of movement between now and the end of the year between Chicago, Toronto, Washington, and the Nets. And I think for Toronto, every game that you're like a team that, you know, is playing a team that you're supposed to beat, you got to get those W's because the margin error now is getting smaller and smaller.
We want you to be a part of our next edition of Ask Jack. Just be sure to send us that question with the hashtag AskJack, and we'll see you next time.